Bienvenidos a Today y Mañana. I'm Alex Urpí. I have here Xavier Urpí, my father, with me. As always, we're presented by Emergent Financial Services. We're always partnering with Forward Adelante, the Latino networking group here in Charlottesville, the premier of signature events, and of course, Sombrero's Mexican Cuisine and Cafe. Well, I have to say, I have to start today with where we went to lunch last week.
Oh.
Because I don't know, it's been on my, every time it's cold, I have to say, you know, you get those desires for things like hot chocolate with rum, or
With rum in particular, right?
rum in particular, or Mexican food.
You are.
You know, and so I was just thinking again of El Puerto where we went the other day.
Oh, that's right.
And Pablo, and just like, oh, so good.
Sabroso,
Sabroso. So good, everything there. And so I gotta say, all right, we've been there a lot of times, favorite dish?
Oh, boy.
At El Puerto.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I like so many of them, and I'm usually a fajitas type of guy, right? But I had the tamales the last time, and they were delicious. I mean, I love tamales. I mean, I like corn, as you know.
Yes,
Corn is my favorite,
you can't beat tamales.
So tamales was just delicious.
So yeah, everything he makes.
And he's such a nice person.
He is.
You know, he's a quiet person, right? And you know, somewhat introverted, I think. Mm-hmm. But he's so nice. He's
so friendly.
You go talk, very friendly, very friendly.
Awesome to be with, you know, and just one of the first. I mean, Olga always told me one of the first to support Forward Adelante, really, and like the mission of entrepreneurship, having a bilingual Latino business journal, really promoting the ideas of Latinos in business, and really pushing that. And he was right at the forefront with some others in really helping Olga get that started and grow that group of Forward Adelante.
You know, it's amazing for and I call it a small community because, as you know, I came from New York, right? So New York is definitely not a small community, right? But the amount of excellent, good Mexican restaurants here in Charlottesville, compared even to, I mean, when I was growing up, I don't even remember going to that many Mexican restaurants in New York, right? I mean, obviously there was a lot of restaurants, right? But I just don't remember that many Mexican restaurants. And the ones here, they're all so very good, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, some more in particular, but their food is just excellent. And I think they take the pride in making their food really delicious.
Yeah, so many. I mean, El Puerto, Guadalajara, Cactus, Sombreros. I mean,
exactly.
Just so many. And really, the rest of there's a lot of the other Latin countries. Oh, yeah? I would say popping up. I mean, for a long time we had Salvadorian, and now we've got Cuban, two in Guajiros, which is like when that opened, I was like, thank you.
Thank
God.
you. Finally.
Thank you, owners. Thank you, Danilo and his brothers. But thank you, God. I needed some Cuban, a place to get a Cuban sandwich.
That's right. That's right.
Having to,
because
order from
there aren't that many Cuban. Like I said, growing up, there was only one in New York. I mean, New York is huge. There's only one. I think there obviously maybe more now. I'm not really sure. I don't go there that often, but there was only one. You know. And speaking of Mexican food, interesting because our second guest, Roberto Rodriguez, who's Mexican from Texas. It's an interesting story. So I remember because obviously the very first time I met him, we went to a Mexican restaurant, right? But it's you know, he was I guess about 35 years ago he started his firm, which is an investment banking firm. And to start an investment banking firm back 35 years ago, the first Hispanic investment banking firm, is just amazing, right?
There were probably zero.
Yeah, I mean, there weren't any. I mean, you know, I started Cypress Asset Management back in 1995. There were a handful of Hispanic investment managers back then that started their own companies. So the story goes, I think this was about year 2000, and we happened to be in Staten Island on vacation. Vacation in Staten Island. The family's there. That's why. It's not that we went to vacation on Staten Island. Exactly. We went to visit family. So I get a phone call, and all of a sudden there's this gentleman, Robert Rodriguez. He introduces himself, and he says that there's this county called Bexar County. And the funny thing is, it's spelled Bexar, but they pronounce it Bexar County. Don't know why, right? Instead of Bejar or Bexar.
Yeah, probably Bejar.
Exactly. So anyway, so Bexar County, and they're looking for an investment manager, and they're their investment banker. So he said, you know, I'm looking for a Hispanic investment advisor, right? And I've been looking around. There's not that many of you. So we apparently hit it off enough on the phone that he said, "I'd like you to come to San Antonio." I said, "Sure." So 1 week later, I called him up and I said, "Okay, I'm ready to come." We set up the appointment and I said, "Okay, here's the date, I'm arriving." And he says, "I'll pick you up." I said, "No, I'll take a taxi to San Antonio, right, to downtown." He said, "I'll pick you up." I get to the airport and, I get down to where the luggage is and I see this gentleman, right, in this cowboy hat. And I'm looking and I'm saying, all right, and he goes, he obviously had an idea what I looked like. He probably went on I guess maybe on my website.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what he looked like. And he goes, "Javier." And I said, "Yes." He goes, "Roberto." He comes up to me, gives me a big hug. Never met this man before, right? Gives me a big hug, right? Start chatting, get my luggage, go outside, pickup truck, right? I mean, this is like a real cowboy from San Antonio who happens to be Hispanic and runs an investment banking firm, right? 2 minutes into the car, right? So what is the first question he asked me? "So what do you think interest rates are going?" It's like you're a bond manager, so that the assumption is if you're a bond manager, you know where interest rates are going, right? So it was a great story, and he's a great man. So it'll be a lot of fun speaking with him, later on and hearing his story because it's impressive and it really is. It's one of those stories that makes you realize that there's an opportunity for everybody here, right?
Oh, to go into that,
Yeah.
you saw that yourself. Emergent, then Cypress, but Emergent basically started at a time when there were, like you said, there's a handful of investment managers,
Yeah.
and you had to come out of. There probably weren't too many Hispanics when you were at Smith Barney. Really, there were no.
There was one.
There was one. There was one Hispanic, but hardly any other Hispanics running billion-dollar portfolios up in Wall Street, and then you decided to leave that and say, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to start my own Hispanic-owned company, and that I would imagine it can be a little bit daunting, only in the sense of a lot of Latinos and Hispanics, I think, are either discouraged from going into that type of industry or just figure it's not for me.
And the slight difference is that there are companies that you can start as a small, either Latino minority firm, right? There's some companies you can start and there's an immediate connection with people, right? There's a little store or really a restaurant, whatever. People just can come in. When you start a firm like an investment banking firm or investment management firm, people just don't walk in your door. You need to go out and tell your story, right? And the issue is that size matters in the sense of everybody says, "Well, how big are you?" "Well, I don't have any clients yet," right? Mm-hmm. So it's an enormous challenge. You are basically now saying the history that I have with other firms, and I think Robert will talk a little bit about this, I'm sure. One, there's the education, and two, yes, you worked at a firm that had the capacity to do what you're doing now, right? And so the important thing is, then you leave, and the assumption is, okay, whatever resources or intelligence he had, he left it with the big firm. He's now in a little firm, right? And
they don't assume that
you
it was your resources, your intelligence.
Exactly. So now you got to prove yourself. So you got to prove that you can do what you did before. And it's like, well, I need at least one client to prove that. And there's the challenges. You got to get that first client, and then the second client, and then it builds from there. But the issue is, it's available. And the opportunities are there. And as we've talked about, education is so important. And starting, your education from where you're young, your financial background from where you're young, if it's a field you want to go into, it's so important. So important, right?
Absolutely. Oh, it is. Education also comes in different ways. There's formal, but then there's also experience. A lot of what you know about bonds, to get to the point where people are asking you about the interest rate, you received from experience, because you didn't actually study bonds in college.
Exactly. Well, it's certainly not my first. I was a computer programmer, as you know, and then happened to write programs for all the, the investment managers in the department, so they could figure out what their portfolios look like. And I said, wow, wait a minute, and these guys are making a lot more money than I am. How do I get to that side? And so, then you went to graduate school. But you're right. There's nothing like experience to really give you that kind of knowledge, right? And, and talking about interest rates, so when you think about the history to where we are today, it's mind-boggling. First of all, when I started, interest rates were at, 13, 14, 15%, right? Interest right now at 0%.
Can't put more extremes than that.
Exactly. And so, how do we get here? How did we get here? And like we mentioned in the last show, there's two sides to the coin. If you are a borrower, you're loving it right now. I mean, to borrow money at 2 or 3% when you're, investing, in a home is a wonderful gift, right? Mm-hmm. If you are a saver, especially if you're an older saver that typically finds itself where he wants to get out of the risky assets into safer assets, such as...
If you're a saver, you want to find the Federal Reserve Chairman and say, I really just want to throttle him
That's right.
a little bit.
Can I get 5% on this? Just tax-free, please, and guaranteed. And that just doesn't exist anymore. But the bottom line is that, there are ways, right? I mean, there are ways to invest that will give you the type of income that you need, right? It's probably more difficult than it was before. One of the areas where you know well and I know well is the closed-end funds. There are a large number of closed-end funds which can produce a good amount of interest. The issue is they're a little more difficult to invest in. I mean, you have to have some knowledge of what's in those funds, how do they manage it, what kind of leverage are they using? So there's a lot more that goes into those funds. It takes
more of, I would say, more effort, more research,
right,
more investigation than it used to. You can't just sit there and say, okay, I'll buy a 10-year bond, problem solved, treasury, I'm good to go. You actually have to to talk with financial advisors and investment managers and really plan how you intend to get your yield.
Exactly.
Because it's not as easy to get as it once was. And a lot of people don't want to go into stocks. And a lot of people probably shouldn't be going into stocks. I mean, if you're 70s, you don't necessarily want to be turning your bond portfolio, the bond part of your portfolio, and say, hey, now I'm going to go into stocks. This is the only place where I can find 2 or 3% yield. But that's a very different animal than bonds.
Yeah, and especially if part of the flow is the principal. If you need principal, if you're earning 2%, but you need 4% to survive on, that means you're taking 2% of your principal every single month or year, or whatever it may be. And you can't take the risk that the market goes down 35% and that principal disappears rather quickly. So, yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for a lot of people, but like I said, there's opportunities. There's ways to get there. It's just not as simple as they used to be. Right?
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, one disadvantage for savers come an advantage for borrowers, especially when you're talking mortgages, you're talking real estate, houses. I mean, there's opportunities out there for people who are looking for new spaces, new spaces to grow their business, new spaces to start a business, new spaces to live in.
Right. No, and that's the key. The key is, we said that last time, if the idea is to start a business, I mean, given what happened in 2020, and the opportunity to start a business today, right, especially with the borrowing rates so low, if you have an idea and you have the passion, I think this is a great time. It's kind of similar to what happened in 2008, 2009, where things looked like it was the end of the world, right? But people that said, okay, we've just gone through a terrible time in the financial world, right? But here's something that I want to start. Here's something that I want to do. And it was a great time to begin certain businesses. And I think we're seeing the same thing. I mean, COVID was a little different in the sense it wasn't just financial. It was, one, it was worldwide, globally. Two, it impacted, 90% of the population from perspective as jobs, right? But here we are. We're I think we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And if you have an idea, if you're an entrepreneur and you always want to start something, I think given where borrowing costs are, if you can borrow to begin a business that you have a passion for, I think you'll be very successful. I think that's what you need to do. Right?
Exactly.
This kind of leads us a little bit into our next guest, doesn't it?
I mean,
low interest rates.
I mean, what better?
What better for real estate, right? So with us, now we're going to have Eddie Kay from Four Corners Real Estate Solutions. And, I met Eddie at the Chuck Lewis Passion Award dinner 2 years ago, I think it was now. Yeah, 2 years. Exactly,
yes,
2 years
sitting
ago.
At your table.
That's right. Yes. That's right. And it was so funny because I don't know. It was I think that that table was basically the whole family, right? My whole family. My wife was there. My sons were there, and I think we had family from. Yeah, you're probably the only one not there. That's right. And we had, I know some company from New York, and there was Eddie K.
Yeah,
and it's
I
like
was part of the family.
And somebody was said to us, "Who is that guy?" I said, "I don't know, but you know, he's a nice guy. He's just a nice guy from Norway."
From Norway, yes.
There you are. I mean, what better than that? So welcome. We're happy to have you, and you know, it's delightful. I know you took it's a long trip to get here, but we appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on your new show. This
Thank you.
wonderful. I know you guys would be very successful. So
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you
It's
so
exciting.
much. Thank you.
So you mentioned sombreros. My office is right across the hallway from them, so you can only imagine what happens lunchtime. I have my salad, but I really want to go across the hallway.
That's right.
So today I did not bring my food, so I'm going to go somewhere and get some lunch.
Perfect.
There you are,
can't
beautiful.
beat it. They have,
Yes.
they have so many good dishes there.
Oh, and the family is so wonderful.
So sweet.
Oh my God.
You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing better than you walked in there and you did the little young man, hola.
Yes, hola.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I had to
polite.
order in Spanish
Oh
for
my
the sweetest little guy.
Yes, yes.
But so, Eddie, I gotta ask.
Yes.
When you came in,
Yes.
earlier we met you, you had an awesome mask on.
Oh,
It was-
yes.
It was amazing looking.
This
So
mask.
I have to ask you, like, who makes those? Like, tell us a little bit about it.
So actually, my wife makes these,
Oh.
and she decided when COVID hit that she's going to start making masks. She had never done it before. This is probably her, I don't know, seventh, eighth, mask design. It's reversible, so
Oh,
you
it's
get a
silly on
design on both
Ah,
sides.
absolutely.
But the great thing is, the restaurants were struggling,
Right.
obviously, and a lot of people, a lot of companies were struggling. But she said, "Hey, I'm going to make masks, and I'm going to give it to the whiskey jar, so they can sell masks and they can make some money." Will is a good friend of ours. So I approached Will and said, "Will, this is what we're going to do." And he goes, "No, we're going to sell the masks, but we're going to donate everything to nonprofit organizations because they are really struggling."
That's awesome.
So we did that, and in October, we wrote a check to the Boys and Girls Club for $1,350.
That's wonderful. That is fantastic.
So then
Love
after
Boys and
that,
Girls.
we decided every month, my wife and I, we're going to donate to a charity. So the next month it was the Big Brothers Big Sisters. The following month it was Montevina Stables Foundation. This month is going to be Girls on the Run. So we are picking these nonprofits, and my wife will stay up late at night making masks.
Oh, God
and,
bless
and
her.
that's her passion now. So
That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
that's awesome.
No, that is terrific.
That is amazing. And you've always been, I feel, a guy that gives back. I remember the first time we had you in our office, we were chatting with you, and you had, those resources. You came to talk to us a little bit about what Four Corners did. But
Yes.
then you also had the resource list for new people when they came into the area. And I
Yes.
remember you had all the different resources they could look at, and also some nonprofits that were in the area. And we had added forward Adelante to that, and there
Yeah.
were so many others. And so I wanted to ask you, I want to give you a chance to tell us a little bit about Four Corners, 'cause I feel like it's a business, but also it has a really nice give back side.
Yes.
And really getting people, welcoming them to the community instead of just selling them a home or a commercial space. So tell us a little bit about that, including, I gotta say, the name, because I don't think we've asked this before, but I always wondered where Four Corners comes from. And
We have an
sort of what's
idea,
behind
but-
it. We have an idea.
We
We
wanna
have a
see
little
how you
guess.
came up with
But I
it.
want to see if it's the same thing I'm thinking or if I'm being too unimaginative.
Well, I spent a lot of money on market research. No. Actually, it just came overnight. It was four corners, a property, a house, a building usually has four corners. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go with Four Corners. And then I just added Real Estate Solutions at the end. So there was no research, there was no Google a name. It was just, this feels right. It explained that the name kind of says it all. Yeah. So that's how I did it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yes, I am all about giving. I'm all about creating relationships. I want to be a resource to people, whether they're living here or whether they're coming to town. And I think as a realtor, you can do that. You know people, you know contractors, you know the local restaurants, you know the nonprofits. So I created a resource list. So if you're new to town, here's a resource list. These are restaurants, contractors, doctors that I have used or currently use. So I want to share that with everybody. My big nonprofit component is the Greater Good program. So I give part of my commission to a nonprofit organization, and it's all based on my client's choice. So if my client is into saving animals, well, here is a rescue organization that saves animals. I'll be more than happy to donate to them in their name.
Right.
I do have some preferred nonprofits that I work with. Obviously, I'm on the board of United Way, so that's a big nonprofit for me. But Building Goodness Foundation, Institute of Autism. There are so many big brothers, big sisters, obviously your organization. So if somebody says, I don't know who to donate to, I will say, well, what you like? What is your passion?
Right.
Oh, children. Okay, well, how about Virginia Institute of Autism? What a great organization. Or I'm into buildings. What Habitat? So
That's
so
amazing.
that's the fun part of my job is to pick up the phone and call these nonprofits and say, hey,
Guess what?
you don't know me, but I'm donating some money on behalf of my client.
That is awesome.
They
And also, I
must
feel
be
like it also
delighted.
must connect your clients in a little way, start to connect them to the community. And see,
Yes.
they're buying a home and instantly they're being connected to a nonprofit.
Yes, exactly. And it's also a good way for me to talk about the community and not necessarily talk about me as a realtor.
Right.
I had a coach one time that said, Eddie, be more interested and less interesting. So I'm always trying to find out, always asking, how can I help you?
Right. Right.
So yeah.
And a great time to be doing this. I think the combination of nonprofits really needing some help, and then interest rates really being so low,
Yes.
as we've been saying. I mean, from 15 to 0. I mean, how does this environment affect you as someone who deals in real estate? Like, when interest rates are this low, what is it? Does it change how you do anything? Does it change how people approach you? Is people first question? I mean, we were just joking.
Are they
The
running
first
to the
question
door?
of the Bondi
Hello?
is, where are interest rates going?
Where are they
I mean,
going
is the
now?
first
Yeah.
question to you like, are interest rates going to stay this low?
Well, no, people are smart. They know stuff. They know the interest rate is low, and obviously you can buy more house
Right.
for the monthly payment that you put down. It's hard because it's a buyer's market and a seller's market. It's a seller's market because the inventory is low, so they can ask more money.
Okay.
It's a buyer's market because the interest rate is low. The problem with being a buyer right now is you really got to be on the ball. You got to have that pre-approval letter ready to go. If you see something come on the market, there is no, let me think about this for a week. It is, we need to put in an offer now, and we need to make it a competitive offer. So that is, my job as a realtor is find that house, make it as competitive as possible, and I will often team up with my mortgage broker that I'm working with to kind of customize the offer to the seller. Sometimes I will ask my buyer to write a letter to the seller. Maybe there's a young family with a small daughter, and my client has a small daughter. Maybe there's a way to connect,
right.
to create that connection. So the seller will go, yeah, this offer is better, but I have gotten to know this family, and I really like them, and I think they will take good care of my house. So I want to sell to them. So you have to be creative, and you have to be on the ball, and you have to pull in all of the resources you have, all of the connections you have, and help your clients.
It's like a presentation to the seller where you bring the whole package together as opposed to just here's the price,
Yes,
right?
it
So you bring the
is.
whole package together, so when somebody else just brings the price, it's like, wait a minute, these guys are prepared. I mean, they're ready to go and they've done their homework and we're not going to get any surprises, down the road.
Yes,
Right.
definitely, yes. Because there are other people out there that will have a full offer, sometimes with an escalation clause. So you need to bring a little more than just that.
Right.
And hopefully by connecting, you're able to maybe get that little advantage, so.
That's super. And I mean, so I've heard certainly that, the real estate when it comes to kind of a retail side, right? The mom and pops, if you want to call it that way, the family has done very well, right? Even during 2020, I guess at the second half of 2020, it took off. How about the commercial side? Because has that been a little more difficult, would you say?
That has been, yeah.
Okay.
I have an office on the downtown mall, and you'll see some of my signs in the vacant storefronts. So that has been a challenge. There have been some spaces where there have not been any interest. But the clients I work with, they know that they have reduced their rent. They are trying to just help out. This is not the time to ask a premium rent.
Right.
Because you're not going to get it.
Exactly.
You're not going to get it. What I'm also seeing is I have 2 nonprofits in retail stores now, so it's shifting a little bit. So it's not necessarily retail that's coming to the downtown mall. Big Brothers Big Sisters, they just rented a space on the downtown mall because they want the visibility. They want to be able to be right there, so when people are walking by, they go, "Oh, that's where you are." Yeah. So yeah,
That's
so
interesting. I wouldn't
it's
have
shifting.
thought nonprofits moving into what were retail spaces.
Yes, they want to be more in the middle of it. They want to be right there so people can park in the parking garage, or they're on the downtown mall, they see it right there. So
Now, do you think that's going to change? I mean, the talk today is that, because of the fact that we had the COVID,
Yeah.
so many people worked at home, right? And because of technology, that people are going to stay home and work from home. Do you think really that's going to be the case going forward, or do you think eventually people are going to want to move out and have an office space?
I think office space will change. I really think that we're going on almost a year now. My wife has been working from home the whole time since March. She loves it. She can get everything done working from home. And I think so many people are finding that, oh, this is actually nice. And I'm seeing that in real estate. I have past clients that will call me up and say, hey, we want to expand because we need a home office. Do you have any contractors you're working with? Or, hey, I need to build a fire pit in the backyard, which what I actually did. And that was my way of networking, of bringing people in. I don't want them in my house, but let's sit around the fire
Exactly.
and
Yes.
connect. Because that's how I connect with people. I need to meet people. I need to have coffee and lunches and happy hours. And
That's the way.
when March came and all of that stopped, I said, well, I'm going to build my own fire pit and have people come to me and kind of reconnect that way. So a lot of people are doing their home projects now. Obviously, if you go to Lowe's, it's always packed.
It's probably like the most packed place.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I tell
In
that story. I
Charlottesville.
think it was, I don't know if it was the middle of March. We were building some raised beds.
Yeah.
And I think it was on
Yes.
a Wednesday, right? And I told my wife, I said, you know what, instead of waiting for Saturday, it's going to be packed. Let me just take Wednesday off, right? And I'll go get some wood.
Uh-huh.
It was packed. I mean, it was like, I said, is this Saturday? I mean, it's an alternate reality. This is Saturday. It was just unbelievable how many people were, I mean, I couldn't find wood. I couldn't find dirt. I said, I think I'm a little late to the game here, right?
Yeah.
So it's true. I mean, just a lot of people decided this is an opportunity to extend my home or
Yeah.
build a fire pit or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's-
definitely. It certainly is. So.
I mean, do you think even like as someone, let's say someone, we've been talking a little bit about entrepreneurship, do you think that if someone out there is thinking of starting a business or that they need a storefront for, I mean, is this a good time to be considering it? Like, are we sort of at a bottom point where like, okay, I can have some hope, I can have some light at the end of the tunnel, that if I get in now to a commercial space, things are reasonably priced such that I can really put my business in there and start growing? You think this is...
I think so, but you said something earlier. The key thing is passion. You got to have the passion, especially in these times. I mean, Sombrero, they opened right before the pandemic hit.
Like a week.
We signed the lease in December 2019. They opened early 2020, and then everything hit. They made it through, but you have to have that passion. God, the restaurants, Whiskey Jar, they did car washes where the kitchen staff did car wash. And obviously with social media, I mean, there were lines of cars waiting. But Shabine and the catering outfit, they did a food bank to help the local community. So you have to have the passion, and you have to be creative, and not sit back and just hope that people will come.
Right.
You got to be out there. You got to make those connections. I have some people that are looking for a place to put an international market. So it is happening. I've had people reach out, they want to open a restaurant. So it's slowly coming back, and I think with the vaccine rolling out, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So things will get better.
And as you mentioned before, I mean, you know, I think in every business, there's a sense of networking. There's a sense of meeting people, talking to people, sharing ideas. And that's the only thing that I see, is that if you're just home and you're by yourself, that begins to dwindle. You know,
Yes.
and just a quick story. I remember during these, I think this was during the 1990s. I can't remember, 19,000, 2000s. The places like Bear Stearns back then and Citibank decided to go to casual Fridays, right? And all the employees came in dressed casually, right? And their business dropped dramatically, right? Because it was a casual atmosphere. It wasn't a go get and sell bonds and stocks atmosphere, right? With your suit and business like. It was incredible how just the whole culture there just changed to, right? So the issue is some things just don't work. And I think that although there's a lot of businesses you can run from your home, in the end, you need to go out and network and meet with people. And I know there's social media. I'm an antique kind of guy, so there's social media and all these things.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like person-to-person shaking somebody's hands. Eventually we'll be able to do that again, I'm sure.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Shaking somebody's hands. And I think that means a lot. So I do think that the commercial real estate will come back. You know, it might take a little longer, but I think it will come back.
It might look different,
Might look different.
Yeah.
but it
It will certainly come back. And the landlords, they still need to be working with the potential tenants or their current tenants. And know that if you push this tenant out, well, you might not have a new tenant that's going to come and take the space. Yeah, we all need to work together. My job last year was to reconnect with people. And often, whether I was the fire pit or picking up the phone and saying, how are you doing?
Right.
Do you need any help? Can I help in any way? Just those words mean a lot. They go, you know, I'm struggling. This is hard. And to be honest, I wrote a letter to my clients last year, and I was struggling. I was like, this is hard. I can't work out. I can't go to the gym. I can't meet people. This is hard, and I want people to know, and people can relate to that, instead of putting on this facade of everything is perfect. And
Right.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Part of hope, because I mean, we were talking about hope with Bernardo and Lucrecia from Sombrero, and I think part of hope is you recognize it's hard.
It's hard.
There's sacrifice, but that's where the hope for the future comes in. Hope isn't, you know, the glass is half full. Hope is, the glass is halfway there.
Yeah.
It's not, but I have hope that it's going to be full.
Yes.
Again, I have strength and passion.
Yeah.
For what it is. It doesn't mean you put on rose-colored glasses
No.
and think that everything's fine now, because then what's there to hope for? If everything is dandy, there's no hope. Hope is things are tough, but I trust that with my passion and what giving back and the things you do, it'll get better.
Yeah, and reach out and say, I need help. This
Right.
is hard.
Right. That's right.
You know, it's okay to do that. you know?
Exactly.
So,
Absolutely.
so yeah.
Well, Eddie, Thank you so much.
This has been fun,
for
Eddie.
coming
Thank
today,
you.
And it's
Thank you.
always such a pleasure talking with you.
Yes, thank you for having me, and again, good luck with your show.
Thank you so much, and
Thank
keep
you.
up the good work.
Thank you very much. All right,
All right.
have a good day.
Nice-
You too,
thank
thanks.
Nice to have you on. Yeah,
All right, very-
always amazing.
It is. It
to
is.
you. And just speaking of passion, it's funny because I think we have two really passionate people today, in Eddie and in Robert, that are just going to show us what it's like to take that passion and go through the tough times and the hard work and the struggles
Exactly.
to get to where you want to go.
And that's what you need. I mean, as we talked about before, and soon I'll be switching to my wonderful Spanish there. But as we mentioned before, it's in some cases not just a passion, but you also have to have the education, the experience before you can then build your business and get it going, right? And so with that, I'm going to. You took my.
I took your,
all right.
I
There you
took
go.
your little piece.
Very good.
Sorry about that.
So with that,
We have some good comments if you want to check. And,
Oh.
I
we have
am on
comments,
chat.
okay.
Let's take a look. So working.
that's
on-
got to be
I'm
good. We
growing
got
on
comments.
my-
Probably all Eddie's
on my
friends.
comment skills. Oh, we've got Olga talking with us on her trust for Emergent. Thank you, Olga. Olga is fantastic. So for those who don't know Olga more, she's the original founder of Forward Adelante.
That's right.
So
That's
she's,
right.
I mean, she's still the vision of Forward Adelante, even from her beach in Puerto Rico. I think she still has that passion and that vision.
Maybe a different
for the
passion now, though,
organization.
right?
We've got, look at this, we've got Jerry himself asking us, what does Xavier think of the current market? Does he like any stocks?
Oh,
Oh,
Jerry,
asking
no,
this
wait
of
a
the
minute,
bond
that's
guy. Asking, do you like
it.
any
So wait a minute. So he wants tips? Is that what he wants?
He wants some free investment advice
Unbelievable.
there on the show. I mean, with any market, I think, and I think, Robert can talk to us a little bit about this too, because I mean, when you and Robert were talking, when you're talking in the 80s, you're talking savings and loan crisis, you're talking
Oh, absolutely,
market crashes. There's always, even when things are really low, there's always opportunities, I think.
Oh no, there
out
are.
there.
There are. I mean, it's interesting because people may not remember, but during one of the crises we had, the Federal Farm Credit Bank, right, was almost ready to go under. But I mean, it's a U.S. agency, right? So when we looked at it, we said, well, I'm just going to buy every single bond I can find out there, right? I mean, so you're buying an agency bond back there, right? Back then, interest rate was still very high, about 12, 13%. But we were buying Federal Farm Credit Banks as if it was one of those high-yield companies, right? It was unbelievable. So there are opportunities. There's always opportunities. There are opportunities today. Technology, you have to look at technology without any doubt. Technology is the future, right? Whether it be in the biotech industry or whether it be in the other type of industries that help, robotics, clean energy. Those are areas that I think are going to do very well, right? And so if you don't have the time to look for a stock, you can look for some
consider the
ETFs or
ETFs
some
and-
mutual funds that invest in that. I think
Yeah,
those
it
are
all
great
depends
areas.
on your time horizon.
Of course.
I mean, if you can think long term is where you want to be, and you got to have the patience.
Yes.
Especially with stocks, I think a lot of it is patience. It's if I'm looking at a 20-year horizon, then I got to be patient for 20 years. I can't sit there and say, "Oh, my space stock is down 2%
I'm not
this
not as
month."
patient as
You're
you
not
are
as
anymore.
patient as I am. You don't have quite as
Not
much.
anymore.
You don't have quite as much time, but you got plenty. You have
Thank you.
plenty. You're the youngest 65-year-old
That you know.
that I know. Or should I say the youngest 65-year-old father that I have. So we're going to bring in here, I mean, he's a true maestro of investment banking from back in the day, and really just, I think, a great resource for all of us. Y vamos a hacerlo en español. Claro
Sí,
que sí,
y
con
ahora
Robert
tenemos
Rodríguez.
el privilegio de tener con nosotros a Roberto Rodríguez. Él empezó la primera empresa de bancos de inversiones.
Buenos días.
Hola,
Hola,
Roberto.
Robert.
Estaba diciendo hey man, ¿cómo estás? Estaba diciendo que tú empezaste tu empresa, creo que fui en 1983 o más o menos durante
Javier's
esos años.
not talking to me, right? Because I can't hear him.
Oh, so
Oh,
él no
let
puede
me
oír de Javier.
No me puede oír.
Oh,
¿Me
no,
oyes?
tienes the microphone in your ear, other way around, other ear,
Oh, this here?
your left. There we go. Ahora.
No, that's my right. Can you hear me now? ¿Me puedes oír?
Te puedo oír mejor, pero todavía.
Todavía no muy bien.
Todavía no.
Ahora sí está mejor.
Oh, está
Bueno,
mejor.
está mejor. Perfecto. Tenía puesto en la oreja
Tenía el
equivocada.
micrófono en la
Equivocada,
oreja.
pero bueno, ahora estoy bien. Estaba diciendo
No le hace, Alex. Esa es la edad.
la edad. Ahora otro que me dice que es la edad. ¿Qué va? Entre mi hijo y tú, mejor que me voy ahora ya. Estaba diciendo que usted empezó su empresa en 1983 y fue la primera empresa de bancos de inversiones hispánica o latina. ¿Es verdad?
Correcto.
Correcto. Y usted tiene una carta que dice que fue la primera firma, la primera compañía. Así que no es...
Aquí la tengo y la puedo traer para enseñárselas, pero...
No es necesario. Yo creo que todo el mundo lo cree. Yo quería estar
sí,
seguro de que cuando yo digo algo es porque es la verdad. Pero dígame, estamos hablando antes, expliqué un poco de su historia en inglés anteriormente. Estaba diciendo que, sin duda, nosotros hemos hablado de esto muchas veces, pero naturalmente abrir una compañía como usted abrió no es cosa de graduarse de college, ¿no? de la universidad, y empezar una compañía como usted hizo, ¿no? Naturalmente, usted tuvo que ir a colegio, también tuvo ciertas experiencias con otras compañías y quizás nos puede dar un poco de su historia y también quizás los obstáculos que fueron difíciles para usted y cómo los logró llegar donde llegó.
Mira, con mucho gusto. La empresa, como dijiste, sí la comenzamos en 1984. 83, 84. Todo depende en lo que los federales, los que están encargados, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Sí.
De el control de este tipo de empresa, porque es financiera.
Claro.
Sí.
Al ser financiera, tiene muchas regulaciones. ¿Okay? Tiene muchas. Está donde tienes que tener mucho cuidado, porque estás hablando de dinero. ¿verdad?
Millones de dinero, no dólares, millones.
Dinero de individuos, dinero de gobiernos, dinero internacional. Entonces, hay una cantidad de control y empresas. Digo, compañías, gobiernos que se encargan de darte los permisos para operar.
Y necesita licencia, necesita una licencia.
Entonces, comenzamos dando lo que le llaman ayudar a los municipios
Sí.
a poder conseguir financiamiento para cosas como las calles, cosas como para los aeropuertos, cosas de vamos a decir, para dar oportunidad a desarrollar
Sí.
casas y cosas de eso. Entonces, el negocio de nosotros era dar financiamiento a estos tipos de gobiernos. Por ejemplo, en la ciudad de Charlottesville, ellos podían contratar con nosotros para traerles sea $1 millón, 10 millones, 100 millones de dólares que vayan a invertir en la ciudad. Entonces, nada más con eso de información, hay que tomar un momento para decirles que en este negocio, normalmente las compañías que hacen esto son las empresas grandísimas.
Sí.
Estamos hablando de
JP Morgan, Citibank, esos
Sí.
grandes
Los
bancos.
Wells
gigantes.
Fargo,
Wells Fargo, sí.
gigantes.
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 Y entonces, la idea de empezar una empresa para competir con estos gigantes era una cosa que nadie iba a creer posible y no iban a creer que se podía hacer. Mucho menos viniendo de individuos que no eran, ¿cómo te diría? Que no tienen las conexiones o las relaciones con este tipo de empresas. O también lo que pasa es que hay ciertos colegios que de esos colegios es donde escogen la gente para que se encargue de estas empresas.
Los Ivy League.
Estamos hablando de colegios como Ivy League,
Sí.
Harvard, Princeton, Yale, ya vas. Así es que nada más te digo esto para que te des una idea de otra vez la tontería de decir que íbamos a crear algo que no tenía ninguna de esas cosas.
Pero lo lograste,
No tenía
lo lograste.
ese tipo de asociación con los colegios del Ivy League. No tenían familia que había estado en ese negocio. Así es que si tienes familia, ¿verdad?, que ha estado en el negocio de construcción, entonces ya comienzas y estás aprendiendo carpintería,
Claro.
Sí.
plomería y todo lo demás, y ya puedes abrir tu empresa mucho más fácil. Lo mismo si tenías una familia de que tu abuelito, tu tío, tu primo era ingeniero de cualquier cosa, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Eléctrico, o tipo de construcción, pero ingeniería, entonces ya podías ir con esa persona a que te diera consejos. Pero si no tienes a nadie en esta empresa, en este tipo de negocio, es entonces más fácil. Así es que ahí comenzó la etapa de cómo hacer eso. Lo que sí pasó es que sí fui al colegio. Perdón, ¿qué Javier?
No dije nada. No. Estamos escuchando.
No, lo que sí pasó es que sí fui al colegio. Primero me estuve en el Army, entonces serví en el ejército por 3 años, y eso me ayudó mucho a aprender disciplina, a aprender ver cosas que normalmente no vas a conocer. Me tocó suerte de que me mandaron a Europa inmediatamente. Así es que me llevaron de un pueblo en la frontera de México, chiquito.
Sí.
La población era de unos 10,000 personas. Entonces, de allí a internacional, y ahí comenzó este tipo de experiencia. Así es que después de colegio, que fue la Universidad de Houston, una universidad que verdaderamente ahorita tienen como 50 o 60,000 estudiantes, y en Texas es una de las más grandes universidades. Pero lo interesante es que la mayoría de la gente que va ahí tienen trabajo. Así es que van parte del tiempo o incluyen su trabajo, porque la mayoría de colegios estás ahí 100%. Y si tienes un trabajo, lo tienes ahí en la universidad. Total que eso fue eso. Entonces, la oportunidad de tener ¿qué se llama? El bachillerato, el degree,
Sí, sí, sí.
era en negocios. Así es que de ahí pude comenzar la idea. Entonces, sencillamente, hubo la ocasión donde una empresa de Nueva York nos hizo me hizo la oferta de ir a trabajar con ellos. Y si paramos ahí por un momento, es que la mayoría, si acaso no hubiera tenido yo esa oportunidad, nunca hubiera estado en este tipo de negocio, porque verdaderamente hasta en colegio no sabía lo que era investment banking.
No, es verdad, y eso pasa mucho. A veces uno va a la universidad, estudia algo y después va a una compañía y aprende mucho más en la compañía que pudo aprender en la universidad. Entonces, usted lo que está diciendo es, primeramente, lo más importante, para ciertos negocios, lo más importante es la educación, y segundo, tener algún tipo de experiencia en esa clase de trabajo antes de poder abrir la empresa que usted abrió.
Porque hay diferentes tipos de educación. Hay educación formal, pero también estamos hablando, creo que, de educación experimental, de estar en un tipo de negocio, de hacer conexiones con otras personas en este tipo de negocio, no solo educación formal de clases y estudios.
Correcto. Entonces, aparte del estudio en el colegio, tienes licencias.
Uh-huh.
Y eso es otro tipo de estudio. Así es que tienes que estudiar para poder conseguir la licencia para poder operar en ese tipo de negocio. Y esas licencias no es fácil para conseguirlas. Muchas veces tiene uno que tomar el examen 2, 3 veces.
Sí, bueno, es importante tener, perseverance o el tipo de, tiene que durar, tiene que sufrir un poquito para pasar los exámenes, y también es necesario tener la pasión, porque sin pasión nadie va a tomar un examen 3, 4 veces para un negocio
que no tiene pasión,
la
cual no tiene pasión. Pero y también, sin duda, yo creo que hoy día quizás ciertas cosas son un poco más difíciles, en el sentido de que hay muchos exámenes en el negocio nuestro, por ejemplo, también. Antes había el MBA, y ibas al colegio y te sacabas el MBA, y hoy día hay un CFA o hay el CFP, y estos son cursos que uno tiene que tomar sin maestro, sin profesor, y tienes que estudiar tú mismo, aprenderlo y pasar un examen. Y creo que naturalmente eso es un poco más difícil, pero como usted dice, si uno es joven hoy y quiere seguir una carrera en finanzas, lo que usted me está diciendo es que lo primero que necesita hacer es ir al colegio, ¿no? Ir a la universidad, y después, si puede trabajar con una compañía por la cual hace lo que él tiene pasión, o por la cual él puede aprender algo, es necesario antes de poder abrir una empresa, ¿no? Roberto.
Entonces, ya regresando a las oportunidades, ahorita está cambiando el país mucho. se ve donde está entrando mucha gente, que va a necesitar mucho apoyo
Sí,
para sencillamente comenzar a su vida en un país nuevo. ¿Okay?
Sí.
Así es que ahora vamos a concentrar en hablar de lo que es ser un inmigrante que acaba de venir a los Estados Unidos de un país en el centro de Sudamérica, ¿okay? O también de México. Ahora, lo que sí, anoche tuve una oportunidad de estar en una conferencia en la escuela de la ciudad de Houston, Houston Independent School District. Y hablamos de que hay, por ejemplo, no me acuerdo exactamente, pero creo que la población del distrito es como 200,000 estudiantes. Y entonces, de esos 200,000 estudiantes, 60% son latinos.
Wow.
¿Ok? 60% son latinos. Entonces, tiene uno que darse cuenta de que el gran número de personas en esa ciudad, que es la cuarta o quinta más grande ciudad de los Estados Unidos, que ya está llegando a un nivel de que la población, el mayoreo, es de gente que habla español. Y que son sean inmigrantes o que hayan tenido tiempo, pero totalmente que son latinos. Ahora, ¿en qué modo podemos apoyar o tener, ¿verdad? Y darles una oportunidad de saber a dónde ir y con quién hablar para comenzar a desarrollarse y su familia.
Sí.
Así es que el trabajo que hacen ustedes
Sí,
es muy importante.
gracias, Robert. No, sí, y es lo que hacemos con Emergent, es lo que hacemos con por Adelante, es apoyar a los latinos, empezar su negocio y en realidad seguir un sueño, como un sueño que usted tenía en el pasado, el sueño de tener un negocio, el sueño de hacer cosas que quizás nuestros padres no hicimos, o no hicieron en el pasado. Pero muchas gracias, Roberto.
Robert, gracias por venir y hablar con nosotros y sin duda estamos de acuerdo en muchas cosas. Como dije, yo lo conozco casi más de 20 años y aunque no lo puedo ver muchas veces, aprecio mucho poder hablar con usted al teléfono por lo menos 1 o 2 veces al mes. Lo aprecio mucho.
Igualmente, y lo que me he dado cuenta es que tenemos que comunicar
Sí.
más seguido, darle información
Claro.
a la gente que existe esta oportunidad donde pueden solicitar ayuda, donde pueden ir cómodamente y alguien que pueda hablar el idioma de ellos y estar cómodos en investigar la posibilidad de ciertos negocios y empresas. Pero ahorita es muy importante seguir en ese camino de establecer lo que le llaman mano de obra también, ¿ok? Porque hay mucho desarrollo, hay mucha necesidad para carpinteros, para plomeros, y están haciendo ahorita mucho dinero, y es una oportunidad que muchas veces se nos olvida que no necesitamos colegio, ¿ok? Necesitamos experiencia para ser lo plomero, para ser electricista, carpintero, para todo el aspecto de construir. Y esos negocios también pagan muy bien y dan una oportunidad para tener una familia que se puede defender muy bien.
De acuerdo.
Así es que esa es otra área de que no podemos olvidarnos,
Sin duda,
lo que le llaman que no tiene que ser colegio.
sin
Sin
duda.
duda.
De acuerdo, de
Bueno,
acuerdo.
Gracias, Robert.
Gracias, Robert. Nos vemos.
Nos vemos.
Entonces ya no vamos a poder seguir hablando.
Vamos
ahora-
a tenerte
tene-
otra
sí,
vez.
tenemos anuncio ahora.
Sí, tenemos unos anuncios del show de next week,
Sí.
el próximo.
Muy bien.
Gracias,
Ok.
Roberto.
Que tengas un buen día.
A ustedes.
Buen día.
All right. Gracias.
De nada, adiós, Roberto.
No, so fantastic to talk with him and just
Well, I
Get
think,
his
you know,
knowledge, and
there's
so
a couple
true.
of things, that's interesting, right? I mean, so, you know, without any doubt, when you have that type of immigration into this country, they need some help, right? Both from a perspective of just making sure that they survive well, but then as you can see, and it's happened to just about every culture, little by little, you know, the second generation, third generation have grown into a different position in this country, and
Absolutely.
then they begin to drive themselves. So I think,
Absolutely.
you know, without doubt, they need help, right? And we can help. And there's, like you said, you know, we need to have people that can pull them out of their you know, their
to help them
power.
grow. It's to help them grow. It's to give them
Yeah.
the resources they need because they'll take it from there. I mean,
Exactly.
there's so many Latinos that success stories like Robert yourself. I
Right.
mean, Sombreros. Like once there's that little bit of the people sometimes need. Older used to refer to it as like a hand up. Instead of like a hand out, a hand up.
up,
Like just once
exactly.
you pitch someone up, they
That's
can
right.
they can take
It's
it
like
from
if
there. They
somebody's
have the
falling,
drive.
you're there to hold
You're
them
there,
up,
grab
you pick them up, and
you're
they're
there to
ready to
pick 'em
run
up,
again.
and then they're gonna thrive.
Exactly.
Themselves. You know, and basically, I mean, our guest next week is
Christelle.
like there's no better example than this. We're gonna have Christelle Knoll, who is, I mean, I know her as the vice president of Forward Adelante. She's been my friend for so many years now, but she happens to be, which is probably an even bigger deal than vice president of Forward Adelante. She is Christelle Knoll's State Farm agency. She's a State Farm agent out in Henrito, Richmond area, and she was in the top 50 new agents in 2019 in the country.
In the country.
And there's 19,000
Yeah, see.
agents in the country. So we're talking top 50 new agents, you know, and she won the Premier Agent Award last year. And that, again, that's an award, I think, basically 100 agents did out of 19,000.
Wow.
You know, and so you're talking to Christelle,
She's a
someone
go-getter.
who, she's a go-getter. She came here, you know, she's Mexican American. She really just worked hard, went each step of the way up to the point where she got her own State Farm agency, and now she went from there to top 50 new agents in 2019. So it's going to be so awesome, I think, to have her on and talk with her about her story.
Absolutely. And she's great. I mean, I love Christelle, and it's going to be wonderful having her here.
Yep. So until then, basically, do not miss that show. Make sure you tune in, set your calendars, watch it. You don't want to miss it. If you haven't, you know, had a chance to watch this show live, definitely listen to the interview with Robert Rodriguez. I think there's a lot to be learned about Latino entrepreneurship and the gains that can be made and the
Absolutely.
examples that there are for us to really be inspired by. But until then, hasta mañana.